So I just thought I would do a video because I bet some people are thinking, what's going on with the channel? Why is it not riding bicycles anymore? Why is it my name, Dylan? Why is it saying film and photography in lots of places? Well, the reason being is that I just got sick and tired of managing all these different social media profiles and stuff like that. So I thought what I'm going to do is I'm just going to combine them in one, but the channel is still going to be cycling heavy. So for instance, there's a Norway trip planned for May, and we've got Costa Rica in the summer. So there's still going to be lots of cycling related stuff. In fact, there's probably going to be more because I combine the photography together. So I thought what I'm best do is, I've been wanting to do this a while, talk about what actually got me into cycle touring and talk about the trips that I did, because I started my first trip back in 2012. So my first trip was not an overnighter. My first trip was 5 weeks around France. So I'd not done any cycle touring at all. I'd not taken a tent on my bike before, and my first trip was 5 weeks in France. So this is going to be part one of many, and this is going to be my first, and they're going to go in order, and this is my first cycling tour ever. Part one in France. Yeah, some of the mistakes that I made along the way. I got the train from Yorkshire all the way down to London, and I then got the ferry across to France. So because I like to be ultra prepared, I got there really early. So what I was going to do was get a ferry and then get to Calais at a decent hour, something like 6 in the morning, something along those lines. But because I'm ultra prepared, I got there really early, before midnight. And because I didn't want any mix-ups, with this being my first big bicycle trip, going abroad with my bicycle and everything like that. And I got there before midnight. They said, "Do you want to get on an earlier ferry?" I was like, wow, yeah, I can get to France earlier than tomorrow. So got on the ferry and not thinking that I would be in Calais at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And every time I've been to Calais before, it was always busy, lots of cars, people around. And at that time, back then, there was no one. It was just me. And I got off the ferry, all the cars had gone, and I was like, 2 o'clock in the morning, what do I do? Nothing was open. So I just thought, right, well, I need to start to ride to Lille. So I'm riding on the road, and every time I got to these foggy patches, it was just pitch black. There were nothing because I was on these quiet roads, and every time I got to this foggy patch, you could see the fog in front of you. And every time I got to this foggy patch, it'd get really cold, and it was proper scary. And the occasional car would come from behind, and I'd be like, what's going to go on here? Are they going to mug me? Are they going to abuse me? I was like, it was a bit weird. And then I heard this party going on, and I went down this thing because I thought I need to get some sleep. Went down this bumpy track, and there was a party going on in the early hours of the morning. Must have been about 4 o'clock-ish at this point. And they went, you can come in and sleep inside if you want. They're all been on alcohol and maybe other stuff. So I was very dubious. And I went, no, it's fine. I'll just sit down on this patio chair. And I stopped there for about an hour trying to have a bit of kip. And then it wasn't working. I didn't feel settled with these people around. There were nowhere for me to put my tent or anything like that. So I just started riding. And then as the sun started to come up, things just started to feel ace. I got this picture of this horse in a field, and then I just felt at home then. And it just got better and better, did the trip. Saw the Tour de France as I went through Paris. And then I ended up from Paris getting the train to Grenoble. And that was sort of like the last train I got then. So what I did was I spent a couple of weeks around the Alps, and I did the La Marmothe route one day, did all that in one day. Thought I'd challenge myself, and oh, it was stunning, beautiful weather. This is probably what got me interested in photography, to tell you the truth, this trip, even though, you know, I'm not taking good pictures, but I did want to start to take good pictures. And lovely, met lots of nice people on the route, and there was a thunderstorm nearly every day. I can remember actually when I was on my way to Grenoble, so I got off the train, in Grenoble, and I was going to the campsite, and I was going in the wrong direction, and I'd spent maybe 3 or 4 hours going in the wrong direction up this mountain. It was absolutely chucking down. There was lightning crashing all down around me. I thought, I can't do this, so I ended up riding back down and knocking on this house saying, can I put my tent up in your garden? They didn't speak English, but they said yes, and they were going to invite me in for some food, but I didn't want to do that, and I just stopped there. Then before they got up in the morning, I'd packed up and I'd gone and in the right direction this time. What else happened on that trip? So I met a guy, and he was a lovely guy, and he was travelling on a Malton. So he was like, oh, you're from England, you must know about Malton. And I'd not heard of them at this point, but he prompted my fascination with them, and that's why I ended up buying a Malton, a white one, brand new, lovely bike. Don't have it anymore though, as you can probably tell. I go through bicycles. So a little story about when I met this guy. So talking to me about that, and about how his relationship had taken a turn for the worse, and he was living in another country. So he was cycling on his first tour to go and see his ex-wife, I suppose, and he was hoping that they could get things back on track. And he says, why don't you stop with us for a couple of days? So I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a plan. Anyway, he'd been confiding in me that he wanted to put things right and get back with her. And then one night I woke up and there was a storm outside, and I woke up and she was sat at the end of my bed, and I jumped and I was like, what's going on here? And she was like, do you want me to leave? And I was like, yes, I do. I want you to leave, please. And so she left. And then it just got even weirder. So like a couple of days later, I'd stop there and I'd want to try and move on with the tour. They're like, oh no, stop for another night. And then I started to get paranoid. And I thought, I haven't seen my bicycle now in like 2 or 3 days, because they'd put it down in the cellar. And I'm like, why won't they let me leave? Why are they keeping me here? So I started to get paranoid. And anyway, I did manage to leave. And for some strange reason, the song that came into my head when I was cycling away from Montpellier was the Littlest Hobo song. Maybe tomorrow I'll want to settle down, but until then, I'll just keep moving on. And that just instantly, I just felt a bit of relief. It was really strange. But there are many, many crazier stories in my next trip that I will talk to you about in the next video. But let's move on. Yeah, that was the first trip. Absolutely brilliant. So for that trip, I started in Calais, rode to Lille, got the train from Lille to Paris. We saw the Tour de France, and then I got the train from Paris to Grenoble, and then from there, that's where my tour started. So from there, I went all the way down to, I spent 2 weeks going around the Alps, and then I went down to Montpellier, and then across the Pyrenees, and then went to, Biarritz, and then up the coast, and then got up to about Bordeaux, and then got the train back across. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm still using the same tent. So when I'm camping on my own, I've still got that Vaude Taurus Superlight tent, and it is still absolutely perfect. So that was 2012, 2013. It gets used 2 or 3 times each year with stuff that I do at school as well, and not a single thing wrong with it. And it's just been absolutely brilliant. If I ever need a tent for myself again, I will definitely be getting a Vaude Superlight. Fell in love with cycle touring, and that's when I decided that every single holiday was going to be a cycle tour. So then the year after, I did my trip down the west coast of America, all the way from Vancouver, Canada, all the way to the Mexican border, down the coast, following the adventure cycling route. For the France trip, I just planned my own route, and it was absolutely brilliant. I met lots of amazing people on the way. Carl and Eugene and Gabrielle from Quebec. But all that is going to be in part 2. But as you can see from this first video, that I've always had a fascination with titanium bikes, all the way back in 2012. So yeah, it's always been there.